Settlements, migrations. What is a settlement? Look around the city, town, or village in which you live. Compare it with these figures. You will find that the buildings, roads, drains, etc. are organized in some way. This arrangement varies widely across the world, as we shall see now. The way we organize ourselves and our living spaces in a place is called a settlement. That is, the geographic space where we live and work. In a settlement, we have different kinds of activities: educational, medical, religious, commercial, etc. In this chapter, we will take a brief look at some aspects of human settlement and the geography related to it. These are all images of Himalayas. Look at all the pictures of Himalayas in chapter 1 and compare the differences in settlement and the risk they need to take while building houses, use of land, type of settlement, etc. The city of Simla, originally designed for a population of 25,000, today it has nearly 2 lakh people. Landslide on Himalayas. A village in Trans-Himalayas in Nubra valleys of Ladakh. This village is located next to a stream that flows with a glacier melting. Stream flows only during summer and farming is possible only during this season. The region receives almost no rainfall and the mountains are barren. Fieldwork. Look at your own city, town or village. Draw a sketch map of a selected area using the methods you had learned earlier. Your map should show roads, houses, shops and markets, streams and drains, some public places like hospitals, schools, bus stand, railway stations, etc. Are the public places located at points that would be convenient to most people? Do you find any patterns in the location of markets? Are the houses in clusters? Are they linked to the main road? Talk to people in the selected area and find out the changes in the settlement during the past 20 years and the reasons for this. What amenities should have been provided for, but have not been done? How were settlements begun? For about 1.8 lakh years, early humans lived in bands as hunter-gatherers. They did not practice agriculture. However, owing to changes in ways of obtaining food, some bands took to the deliberate method of production of food, agriculture. As agriculturists, they were increasingly sedimentary, staying in one place. Using the information given above, compare and contrast nomadic and sedimentary lifestyles. How many points could you identify? Why do settlements change? Settlements change for many reasons. Look the story about Delhi. The city of Delhi can claim to have been central to many empires that ruled India. When India gained independence, the city remained its capital. Over the decades, the city has attracted people from all parts of India as they migrated in search of livelihood, jobs, education, dispensary, etc. As the capital of the country, with the parliament and central government offices, there are people from all parts living in the city. Because of this, the population increased eightfold from 60 lakhs to 1 crore and 60 lakhs. Every city usually has a master plan to design and allocate different types of areas. In any city, there should be housing areas, markets, schools, industrial areas, office areas, parks and recreational areas and so on. Based on this, planners can decide the types of roads, the amount of water or electricity required, how to dispose waste, how to clean sewage, etc. that would be necessary. The city of Delhi had 3 such master plans. However, if we look at the current scenario, it would appear that these plans have not been implemented properly. In fact, Delhi has grown in an unplanned manner. A planned colony usually has all the facilities in place. Government has to announce areas demarcated for different purposes. The constructions in that area are expected to follow such an order. However, it is clear that such plans have not been followed. On one hand, there is growing population in the cities, and on the other hand, there is long delay in planning and announcing how the areas are to be used. People who migrate to the city looking for work occupy land and settles. After that, without necessary permission and build on it in the way they can afford with no help or facility from anyone. They remain unauthorized for long periods. When the plan is finally announced, these areas may be marked for a different purpose. This leads to a difficult conflict situation. People face constant threat of eviction. They seek political patronage from being evicted from their homes. These colonies are not likely to be recognized because the master plan ignored their existence. Thus, these colonies also do not receive many public amenities. People here are poor but provide essential service to the city. What type of places are formed as settlements? To understand this, we need to look at these basic concepts. 1. Site. 2. Situation. 3. The history of the place. Site refers to the characteristics of the place, its topography, altitude, characteristics of water bodies like lakes, rivers, underground water, types of soils, security, shelter from natural forces, and so on. In early settlement periods, places which had favorable water supply and good protection from invasions were preferred. For example, Chhatrapati Shivaji built a fort in Pratapgarh, Maharashtra. This site was chosen because of its altitude from where all the surrounding areas could be seen. This provided military security. Places do not exist in isolation. They are in some way connected to other places. Situation describes the connection with other places. For example, Visakhapatnam is located on the coast and connects to many places in and outside of India. Over the decades, Visakhapatnam's population has grown significantly. This growth is a result of the importance of Visakhapatnam as a port city. This population increase also indicates growth in economic and social opportunities. Visakhapatnam has a long history. It was ruled by different dynasties during pre-colonial times. During the 19th century, the British and French fought a naval battle over this city. Coastal places were of immense significance for colonial powers because they could build ports there. These ports would enable export of raw materials to the colonizing country. In fact, cities such as Mumbai and Chennai were further developed by the colonial powers to better exploit the natural resources of India. The fight for Visakhapatnam was for similar reasons. Indian settlements in hierarchy. The Census of India organizes settlements in India using certain criteria. In the table 3, the census department's definition of various settlement types are given. Read them carefully and complete the exercise. Observe this pyramid. The bottommost part of the pyramid shows the lowest level of the settlement hierarchy according to the Indian census. The topmost shows the highest level. In the future, India is poised to follow the trend of many economically developed nations in becoming predominantly urban. Urbanization in India. In India, nearly 350 million, that is one-third of population, lives in cities and towns. People have been increasingly taking up non-agricultural work and living in cities and towns. This process is called urbanization. A considerable section of population in the 1950s lived in 5.6 lakh villages, and there were only 5 cities that had a population of more than 1 million each, and the number of cities with 1 lakh population was around 40. Today, the number of villages has increased to 6.4 lakh and about 850 million people live in these villages. 3 cities, Mumbai, Delhi and Kolkata, accommodated more than 10 million people each. There are more than 50 cities that have a population of 1 million and above. Though there has been an increase in urbanization, the necessity of providing basic infrastructure that can support this growth is missing. You require roads, drainage, electricity, water, and other public facilities. Government intervention is making some headway in improving the urban infrastructure, particularly those associated with road transport. However, the provision of electricity, water, and health infrastructure is not sufficient for poorer people in the cities and towns. This situation is even worse. How does urban India contribute to India's economic development? Service sector activities such as finance, insurance, real estate and business related service activities such as transport, storage and communication contribute more than industrial activities. There is no major growth of industrial output over the last few decades. Living in or moving into cities and towns is a boon only for a few. Although the level of poverty in urban areas is relatively lower than what is noticed in rural areas. There is a huge gap between the average income of a low income family and a high income family. This gap has also been increasing in cities and towns. Incomes earned in urban areas by the SC/STs are far lower than other caste groups. In 2009-10, only about one-sixth of urbanites belonging to caste other than SC/STs were poor, whereas in the case of SC/ST urbanites, the poverty level is double. Most of these poor live in non-metropolitan towns and work in the unorganized sector. Most of the population increases in cities and towns took place as a consequence of natural growth within the urban areas. The population of these urban areas increased over time. Some of the growth in urban settlements took place by expansion, with the inclusion of rural areas surrounding older cities and towns. Only one-fifth of the growth is due to rural to urban migration. Problems of urbanization. Increasing urbanization is not just all about greater opportunities for people, more economic productivity, etc. It also results in many problems. The growing urban population has to be housed. It needs water supply, sewage and other waste disposal, transportation and many other things. All these result in environmental stress as vehicle use increases. Urban air pollution increases, causing health problems and localized climatic change. Improper sewage disposal can also lead to greater threat of infectious diseases. One of the impacts of increased urbanization is the use of materials that either do not degrade or take a long time to do so. This produces waste that has to be disposed of. Where do we put such waste? As urban areas expand, the waste is increasingly pushed to rural areas where they are either just dumped or taken to waste treatment plants. Erythropolis. A new kind of settlement is happening in many countries, including India. These settlements are centered around large airports. Hence the name Erythropolis or airport city. In an erythropolis, the airport functions as a city in its own right. Many facilities like hotels, shopping, entertainment, food, business, conferencing, etc. are provided right there. People can fly in, conduct their business with their counterparts right there, and fly out with all the comforts of a city without the traffic and other problems. Migrations. People moving from their places to other places to searching of better opportunities is called migrations. Migrations arises out of various social, economic or political reasons. Measure and classify migration patterns. For identifying a person as a migrant, two criteria are used by the census. 1. Birthplace, place where the person was born. Last usual place of residence, a place where the person had stayed continuously for a period of 6 months or more. Here is a list of a few people. Categorize them as migrant or non-migrant. Indicate the pattern and guess the probable reasons for migration. In India, according to Census 2011, about 307 million people have been reported as migrants. Migrations can happen due to many reasons. While females report marriage as the most common reason for migration, employment or seeking employment is the most common reason for males to migrate. Dissatisfaction with employment opportunities in the native place, better opportunities for studies, losses in business, family fears, etc. are also some of the other reasons that people have stated as reasons for migration in the census surveys. Do you agree with most of the children are dropouts in migrant families? Explain with examples related to your area. Seasonal and temporary migration. According to the National Census surveys, every fourth person in India is a migrant. During 2001-2011, migration increased but not as much as in the 1980s. This may be within a state or outside. We have examined the statistics of rural-urban migration and the multiple reasons for migration. However, it is significant to note that rural-to-rural migration is increased. Some of this may not be captured by census data because the period of stay is often less than 6 months. The number of seasonal migrants is underestimated in India due to limitations in the definition of the term migrant used in the national surveys. Rural to rural migration. Maharashtra is one of the popular states of India which produces sugar. It has 186 cooperative sugar factories. Large-scale sugarcane cultivation began here in the early 1970s after the Koyna Dam was built. A study estimates that about 650,000 laborers migrate from central to western Maharashtra for sugarcane cutting each year. Of these, around 2 lakh are children in the school age group of 6 to 14 years. They come with their family members. The sugarcane cutters camp for the season in clearings earmarked by factories. These are in the vicinity of the fields. Each family is provided with a bamboo mat and poles. A large section of rural workers migrate for a short duration and particularly due to distress caused in rural areas. They are mainly agricultural laborers or marginal farmers in their place of origin and mostly belong to low-income households, Dalits and Adivasis. The National Commission of Rural Labor in its report in 1990s found that uneven development and regional disparity triggered and accelerated seasonal migration. In some tribal areas, intrusion of outsiders and displacement of people for construction of dams and mining have increased distress seasonal migration. Social background of short-term migrants in India 2007 and 8. In agriculture sector, employers go to the native place of migrants and recruit them. Contractors, traders who belong to the same caste, community or source area are used by the employers of quarries in Delhi. Coffee plantation of Karnataka and farming in Punjab. Such workers come with workers who have already migrated. Contractors retain part of the migrants' earning apart from the payment they receive from employers. Sometimes the contractors also work as supervisors. Rural-urban migration. People migrate from rural areas mainly due to insufficient employment opportunities and inadequate income available in rural employment. People also migrate with expectation of higher income and more opportunities for family members and maybe better services. Most urban migrants have to work as laborers and find employment in the unorganized sector. They could be working as hawkers, painters, repair persons, rickshaw pullers, construction labor, etc. When people move out of rural areas, which sector of the economy in the rural area loses the most member of people? Why? In urban areas, what are the common sectors of the economy in which migrants from the rural areas find employment? What are the reasons for this? People from rural areas move to cities and towns to work in industry and other service activities. This has been recognized as a natural reason to increase their income and for better family prospects. In this process, they have opportunities for education, new jobs, and to acquire new skills. Towns also appear to offer greater freedom and somewhat less discrimination based on caste and gender. However, many move to urban areas more out of desperation and not having adequate employment opportunities in the rural areas. For these people, living conditions in slums, in towns and cities are worse because space is scarce and even basic facilities such as drinking water and sanitation are not available. These people are not able to find jobs in the organized sector and therefore there is no job security and decent income that they were aspiring for. They continue to live as daily workers. Interview a person who has come to a town to work in the unorganized sector as a laborer or domestic servant and write her story. If you live in a rural area, interview a person who has come on a vacation from working in a town in the unorganized sector. Write his story. Compare and contrast these two situations. Many families have residences both at their origin and at the destination. They shift between the two places depending on work and seasons. Migration does not necessarily involve movement of all members of the family, and often the wife remains in the rural area. Urban migrants use different job searching mechanisms depending upon their skills and educational qualifications. Contacts and networks are crucial for getting urban jobs. In fact, villagers pre-arrange their jobs from rural areas and come to urban areas through their contacts or networks. They keep close ties with their rural areas for a variety of reasons. Migrants also pass on the urban opportunities to the rural areas so that potential migrants can engage in rural-based job search. In most cases, migration is the survival strategy for many families. International migration. 1/3 of the world's 200 million international migrants, less than 70 million people, according to the United Nations Development Programme (UNDP), have moved from one developing country to another. International migration from India is of two types. People with technical skills and professional expertise have migrated to countries such as USA, Canada, United Kingdom, Australia, and other developed countries. IT professionals, doctors, and management professionals are an example of this type. Indians migrating to countries such as UK and Canada in 1950s and 60s were unskilled, whereas in the later years mostly professional went to these countries. In recent times, Indian professionals also go to countries such as Germany, Norway, Japan, and Malaysia. In the 1950s, about 10,000 persons a year went to developed countries, and in 1990s, this has increased to more than 60,000 a year. The second type of international migration is unskilled and semi-skilled workers migrating to oil exporting countries of the West Asia on temporary contracts. Almost all these workers come back after a specific period depending on the employment situation in the destination countries. During the last few decades, Saudi Arabia and UAE have been the important destinations for the most of the 3 million Indian workers in the West Asia. Every year, more than 3 lakh workers migrate to West Asia. Nearly 3/5 of workers going to West Asia are from Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Telangana, and Andhra Pradesh. A considerable section of these workers are engaged in construction projects, maintenance, services, transport, and telecommunications. Draw arrow lines on the world map depicting people from India going to different countries. What happens when people migrate? Migrant laborers spend more on food as they cannot get food grains from fair price shops at their workplaces. As they live in harsh circumstances and unhygienic conditions, they suffer from health problems and are prone to diseases. Those working in quarries, brick kilns, construction sites, and mines suffer from body ache, sunstroke, skin irritation, and lung diseases. When employers do not follow safety measures, accidents in industrial areas and construction sites are also common. Migrants are not able to access various health and family care programs as they do not belong to the organized sector. In the case of women migrant workers, there is no maternity leave. This means they have to go back to work soon after childbirth. When families migrate, children accompanying their parents do not have creche facilities. Growing up children are not able to continue their studies at their parents' new workplaces. Schools in their native place refuse to take them again when they come back. They finally become dropouts. When males leave their families, it is also a major challenge for women who have to take care of all the responsibilities of the family and elderly people who need care. Young girls in such families are required to take care of siblings, and many of them become dropouts. Migration leaves a considerable mark on the migrants also. Exposure to different environment, stress associated with it, food available, and social atmosphere leave a deep impact on migrants. This also depends on the length of migration. Most migrants, and particularly those going for a long term, send remittances. In some regions of India, nearly 1/3 of households depend on the remittances sent by their migrant members. Majority of the seasonal migrants either remit or bring back savings. Migration allows households to meet debts and other obligations without having to sell assets. It is also common to find migrant families buying house, land, agriculture machinery, and consumer durables. Some migrants might take up jobs in the destination, acquire skills required in the destination area, become aware of how to get regular jobs, and migrate regularly or permanently. Monitoring of international migration. The Immigration Act 1983 is the Indian law governing migration and employment of Indians abroad. It also lays out conditions to safeguard the interests of workers immigrating for employment. Embassies set up by the Indian government in different countries are expected to follow the legal procedures and protect the welfare of the international migrants as given in the Immigration Act. At times, migrant workers are not paid their salaries. Recruitment agents cheat prospective workers or collect more than the prescribed fees for their role in getting work for workers abroad. Employers also terminate the job contract before its expire, change the employment contract to the disadvantage of migrant workers, pay less than the agreed salary, and fringe benefits and other perks. They often force workers to do overtime without making additional payments and deny permission to keep one's own passport. Indian migrant workers seldom lodge any complaint against their foreign employers for the fear of losing their jobs.